The Weekly Podioplex will begin after this short podcasting promotional.
In a world where we wait for a new Farscape series, one small crew sends out a beacon of hope to scapers everywhere.
Hi, this is Ben Browder.
Hi, I'm Claudia Black.
Hi, I'm David Franklin.
Hi, this is Rayleigh Hill.
Hi, this is Paul Goddard.
Hi, I'm Gigi Edgley, and you're listening to the Scapecast.
Hi, everyone.
Attention. Last time in our hero's journey.
La la la.
Frail you are, she says as she's knocking John out with her rifle.
I'm Wendy Hembrock with the news.
Yeah, baby, it's time once again.
My word.
LMNOP.
You know, I'm tired of these mother-frelling steaks on my mother-frelling Leviathan.
Holy cannoli.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer will be dead.
Oh, no.
You can find the Scapecast at scapecast.org.
Every time I think that there's more to you than a pair of pushed-up loomers and a corset.
If only we had some way to keep up our stamina.
Naughty missed.
Does Mommy know you're here?
Oh, no, Mommy doesn't know.
Here's your rematch, Crichton.
What a lovely fantasy of family reconciliation.
Where's your next?
Shut up.
The Scapecast, your guide to the wonders of Farscape.
Good evening. I hope you'll excuse me if I appear a trifle excited, but I've just come into possession of a cure for insomnia. It comes in capsule form. For best results, they must be taken internally. Here is the handy applicator. It is an amazingly simple device. An idiot can operate it, and indeed many do.
This is Michael Falkner, and it is showtime at the January 3rd, 2012 edition of the Weekly Podioplex, brought to you by the Chronic Rift. Starting with the box office report, the three-day holiday weekend's rundown kicks off with number 10 and The Descendants, steady from last week. In 9th is The Darkest Hour, down 1 from 8th. At number 8 is New Year's Eve, up 1 from 9th due to the holiday of the same name. In 7th place is The Adventures of Tintin, down 2 from 5th. Holding at 6th is We Bought a Zoo. In 5th place is Warhorse, down 2 from 7th with $14.4 million and a new total of $40.4 million. In 4th place is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, holding steady with $14.8 million and a total of $55.8 million. In 3rd place is Alvin and the Chipmunks, Shipwrecked, holding position with $16.4 million and a total of $92.7 million. In 2nd is Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows, pulling in $21 million to hold the 2nd place spot with its new total of $131 million. Holding the holiday ground at 1st place was Ethan Hunt and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, taking an additional $29.6 million for a grand total of $132.5 million. Ghost Protocol has passed the total of Mission Impossible 3 and stands ready to surpass the original's $181 million take. Closing out the box office report, let's look at what was winning in the box office in years gone by. 5 years ago in 2007, Night at the Museum was tops with $23.7 million. 10 years ago, 2002 saw Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring at $23 million. 20 years ago in 1992, Hook was the number 1 at $11.5 million. 30 years ago, in 1982, Sharky's Machine had $3.2 million this week. And 40 years ago saw Dirty Harry in 1972 with $3.4 million. The week of January 6th kicks off the new year with a small handful of new releases, starting with a single wide release, The Devil Inside, a thriller starring Fernanda Andrade, Simon Quartermain, and Evan Helmuth.
South Hartford 911, what is your emergency?
Three people.
Ma'am, what's the problem?
3 people are dead. I killed them.
Ma'am.
When I was about
8 years old. My mother murdered 3 people.
Police arrived
She
at the home.
had committed these murders during an exorcism. An exorcism performed on her. The Holy Church got involved, and she was transferred to the Centrino Mental Hospital in Rome. So here I am. You start wondering, is it in my genes? Am I gonna flip out one day?
Just precautions. If she became so difficult, there is a panic button on the wall.
Maria, I'm your daughter.
Connect the cuts. Connect the cuts, connect the cuts.
If you really want to help your mother, you need a better understanding of exorcism.
What do you suggest?
You need to see a real one.
I had to move her downstairs to the basement.
This is a combination of science and religion based on my background in medicine.
Let's begin.
Isabella.
She said my name.
I found 4 voices on the recordings.
What does that mean?
Multiple demonic possession.
Please help my mother.
This isn't consistent with any form of possession that I've ever seen. I'm sorry, Isabella. This...
Spider came down.
Isabella, don't listen to it.
Down came the rain. The spider out.
No, I don't know.
Came the sun and dried up everything. Let my mother go.
You'll burn.
In Italy, a woman becomes involved in a series of unauthorized exorcisms during her mission to discover what happened to her mother, who allegedly murdered 3 people during her own exorcism. The Devil Inside is not rated. Moving on to our limited releases, we begin with Rhodey, a drama starring Ron Eldard, Bobby Cannavale, and Jill Hennessy. After 20 years on the road with Blue Oyster Cult, Jimmy Testergross returns to his hometown to life with his ailing mother. Complications arise when he falls for an old friend who is now married to his longtime nemesis. Rhodey is rated R. Next we have Beneath the Darkness, a thriller starring Dennis Quaid, Tony Oler, and Amy Teagarden. After watching their best friend get murdered, a group of teens struggle to expose a local hero as a vicious killer and keep from becoming his next victims. Beneath the Darkness is rated R. And last on the new release slate we have Once Upon a Time in Anatolia, a drama from Turkey starring Muhammed Uzuner, Yilmaz Aldrogan, and Taner Brisel. A group of men set out in search of a dead body in the Anatolian steppes. Once Upon a Time in Anatolia is not rated and opens in New York City on January 4th. January 3rd's home entertainment slate is a little bit larger, and it starts off with Contagion, a dramatic thriller starring Matt Damon, Kate Winslet, and Jude Law. Contagion is a thriller centered on the threat posed by a deadly disease and an international team of doctors contracted by the CDC to deal with the outbreak. Contagion is rated PG-13. Next, we take a look at I Am, a documentary by Tom Shadyac, Desmond Tutu, and Noam Chomsky. Director Tom Shadyac, yes, the same Tom Shadyac who directed Liar Liar, Patch Adams, and the 2 Bruce Almighty movies, speaks with intellectual and spiritual leaders about what's wrong with our world and how we can improve both it and the way we live in it. I Am is not rated. Up next, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, a fantasy thriller starring Katie Holmes, Guy Pearce, and Bailey Madison. A young girl sent to live with her father and his new girlfriend discovers creatures in her new home who want to claim her as one of their own. Don't Be Afraid of the Dark is rated R. Next is The Guard, a comedy starring Brendan Gleeson, Don Cheadle, and Mark Strong. An unorthodox Irish policeman with a confrontational personality is teamed up with an uptight FBI agent to investigate an international drug smuggling ring. The Guard is rated R. Next up is I Don't Know How She Does It, a comedy starring Sarah Jessica Parker, Pierce Brosnan, and Kelsey Grammer. I Don't Know How She Does It is a comedy centered on the life of Kate Reddy, a finance executive who is the breadwinner for her husband and 2 kids. I Don't Know How She Does It is rated PG-13. Next we move on to Puncture, a drama starring Chris Evans, Mark Casson, and Vanessa Shaw. Puncture is a David and Goliath law drama about a drug-addicted lawyer who takes on a health supply corporation while battling his personal demons. Puncture is rated R. Next up is The Last Lions, a documentary starring Jeremy Irons. 50 years ago, there were close to 500,000 lions in Africa. Today, there are around 20,000. To make matters worse, lions, unlike elephants, which are far more numerous, have virtually no protection under government mandate or through international accords. This is the jumping-off point for a disturbing, well-researched and beautifully made cri de coeur from husband and wife team Derek and Beverly Jobert, award-winning filmmakers from Botswana who have been explorers in residence at National Geographic for more than 4 years. The Last Lions is rated PG. From lions to sharks, we move on to Shark Night 3D, a horror film starring Sarah Paxton, Dustin Milligan, and Chris Carmack. A weekend at a lake house in the Louisiana Gulf turns into nightmare for 7 vacationers as they are subjected to shark attacks. Shark Night 3D is rated PG-13. And last on the main release list is The Greening of Whitney Brown, an adventure film starring Sammy Hanratty, Brooke Shields, and Aidan Quinn. Whitney, a spoiled preteen from Philadelphia, is forced to move to the country when her parents feel the squeeze of economic hard times. A fish out of water, far from her comfort zone, she befriends an amazing horse and undertakes a misguided journey back to her old life, only to discover their family is her home. The Greening of Whitney Brown is rated PG. Moving right along to TV on DVD, we begin with Justified, the complete second season, starring Timothy Oliphant and Nick Searcy. In the aftermath of the deadly showdown that freed Harlan County from the Crowder family crime ring, U.S. Marshal Raylan Gibbons must now take on a greater criminal force looking to seize power, including hell-bent nemesis Boyd Crowder and the arrival of brutal new adversary Max Bennett. Next on the list, we move to suspense anthologies with Alfred Hitchcock Presents Season 5. Reunite with the master of suspense Alfred Hitchcock for more of the mind-boggling twists and devious thrills synonymous with one of TV's greatest shows, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. In the 5th season, delve into 38 stories of greed, larceny, revenge, and murder where every character holds a guilty secret and a misleading MacGuffin lurks in every corner. Featuring some of Hollywood's brightest guest stars, including Walter Matthau, Steve McQueen, Peter Lorre, Dick Van Dyke, William Shatner, and Burt Reynolds, it's 5 discs of delicious mysteries from the icon whose highest hope for his audience was to give them pleasure, the same pleasure they have when they wake up from a nightmare. Next up, we have Royal Pains, Season 3, Volume 1. Starring Mark Feuerstein, Paul Constanzo, and Jill Flint. Return to the Hamptons with concierge doctor Hank Lawson as he works to balance the medical needs and frivolous whims of the very rich, sometimes famous, and always demanding. The first half of Season 3 brings big changes to Hank's family as he learns the real reason he never met his grandfather, Ted, and appears to be gaining a sister-in-law when Paige says yes to Evan's proposal, with one worrisome caveat. These 10 episodes feature a wealth of special guests, including Henry Winkler, Matt Lauer, Wilmer Valderrama, and more. Summer may be over, but the Doctor's as hot as ever in this witty comedy. From Doctors to Fairy Tales, we move next to Red, Werewolf Hunter, starring Felicia Day, Kevon Smith, and Stephen McCaddy. In a TV movie brought to you by the channel formerly known as Sci-Fi, the modern-day descendant of Little Red Riding Hood brings her fiancé home to meet her family and reveal their occupation as werewolf hunters. But after he is bitten by a werewolf, she must protect him from her own family. And last on TV on DVD, we have Mildred Pierce, starring Kate Winslet, Guy Pearce, and Evan Rachel Wood. In this dramatic TV miniseries, divorced single mom Mildred Pierce decides to open a restaurant business, which tears at the already strained relationship with her ambitious elder daughter, Veda. Next up, in a new segment for the Weekly Podioplex, we take a look at what's available on Netflix Instant Streaming. First, the new releases for the week of January 1st through January 7th, starting with Rollerball, a sci-fi action film from 1975 starring James Caan, John Houseman, and Maude Adams. In the future, global megacorporations maintain their power by channeling and releasing human hostility through Rollerball, an anything-goes worldwide sport designed to show the forcibly subdued populace that individualism is futile. Rollerball is rated R. Next on the list is Antitrust, a dramatic thriller from 2001 starring Ryan Phillippe, Tim Robbins, and Rachel Lee Cook. Villainous software magnate Gary Winston hires computer whiz Milo Hoffman to help his company, Nerve, develop a new satellite communication system. At first, it's a dream job, but Milo's best friend soon meets with tragedy. Antitrust is rated PG-13. Next up, it's The African Queen, a romantic drama from 1951 starring Humphrey Bogart, Katharine Hepburn, and Robert Morley. In Africa during World War I, a gin-swilling riverboat owner/captain is persuaded by a straight-laced missionary to use his boat to attack an enemy warship. The African Queen is not rated. Next up, it's Bed and Roses, a drama from 2000 starring Pilar Padilla, Adrian Brody, and Elpidia Carrillo. An immigrant named Maya who crosses the Mexican border to join her sister, Rosa, gets a job as a janitor in a large office building. Outraged by the boss's mistreatment of the workers, Maya teams up with a union organizer to fight for justice. Bread and Roses is rated R. Next on the list, it's He Said, She Said, a romantic drama from 1991 starring Kevin Bacon, Elizabeth Perkins, and Nathan Lane. A conservative cad and a mild-mannered liberal are journalists whose views differ on everything. But when they're pitted against each other in competing newspaper columns and a TV show, they discover they have one thing in common. They're in love. He Said, She Said is rated PG-13. Up next, we have The Good Thief, a crime drama from 2002 starring Nick Nolte, Netsuko Kunitz, and Kwasani Mbarek. An aging gambler on a losing streak attempts to rob a casino in the south of France, but somebody's already tipped off the cops before he even makes a move. The Good Thief is rated R. And the last new Netflix release is on the TV front. Netflix is adding more episodes to the series Supernatural, starring Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles. Siblings Sam and Dean face off against more otherworldly adversaries, including a group of hellhounds representing the 7 deadly sins, changelings who hunt down mothers and their children, and a female demon who's hot for Dean. The next part of this segment is what's expiring this week on Netflix. Due to the natural ebb and flow of Netflix contracting, a plethora of flicks expired at the dawn of the new year on the instant stream. What I plan to do with this segment is to cover what's expiring in the coming week so you have a chance to check them out. This time I'll be covering the week from January 3rd to January 10th. On January 8th, you have most of the James Bond library, both the official and unofficial, which are leaving instant streaming. Casino Royale from 1954 and Never Say Never Again from 1983 are the unofficial films. The official films leaving are Diamonds Are Forever, Dr. No, For Your Eyes Only, GoldenEye, Goldfinger, License to Kill, Live and Let Die, The Living Daylights, The Man with the Golden Gun, Moonraker, Octopussy, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, The Spy Who Loved Me, Thunderball, A View to a Kill, The World Is Not Enough, and You Only Live Twice. Also leaving on January 8th from the Bond category is Bond Girls Are Forever, a documentary made about the women of James Bond. On January 10th, we have one title of note leaving, that is Working Girl, starring Harrison Ford, Sigourney Weaver, and Melanie Griffith. Now, unlike DVDs, Netflix streaming titles are licensed for a limited period of time, and titles come and go depending on their contract length. If Netflix is able to renew those contracts, these titles, of course, will return. And as always, we round out our home entertainment section with Blu-rays from the past. This time we start off with Unleashed, an action film from 2005 starring Jet Li, Bob Hoskins, and Morgan Freeman. A man raised into behaving like a dog escapes from his captor to start a new life, who seeks to reclaim him because of his unnatural martial arts skills that are triggered when unleashed. Unleashed is rated R. Next we have Serendipity, a romantic comedy from 2001 starring John Cusack, Kate Beckinsale, and Jeremy Piven. A couple reunites years after the night they first met, fell in love, and separated, convinced that one day they'll end up together. Serendipity is rated PG-13. And last on our list is She's All That, a romantic comedy starring Freddie Prinze Jr., Rachel Lee Cook, and Matthew Lillard. A high school jock makes a bet that he can turn an unattractive girl into the school's prom queen. She's All That is rated PG-13. Next, we finish this off with the Quick Flicks. In 1988, the National Film Preservation Act created the National Film Registry in the United States. The registry selects a group of films each year for permanent preservation in the Library of Congress based on their status as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant films. The nominees have to be at least a decade old and are chosen from a list of films nominated by the public. In 2011, 2,228 films were nominated and 25 were inducted. In 2011, the following list was inducted: Allures from 1961, Bambi, The Big Heat, A Computer-Animated Hand, Crisis, Behind a Presidential Commitment, The Cry of the Children, A Cure for Pokeritis, El Mariachi, Faces, Fake Fruit Factory, Forrest Gump, Growing Up Female, Hester Street, I, an Actress, The Iron Horse, The Kid, The Lost Weekend, The Negro Soldier, The Nicholas Brothers Family Home Movies, Norma Ray, Porgy and Bess, The Silence of the Lambs, Stand and Deliver, 20th Century, and War of the Worlds from 1953. All in all, that's a pretty good group of films. If you've heard the news about a big screen reboot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer without Joss Whedon, you may like this story. Warner Brothers rejected the script from first-time screenwriter Whit Anderson, and the project is in danger of being scrapped. Anderson was hired to write the script last fall, but the studio felt her script was short of expectations. A new screenwriter is being sought after, but the project is also losing momentum after the fan outcry that greeted the news of the reboot. Also in really short news, Digital Bits announced that Steven Spielberg's hit that made you afraid of the water, Jaws, will be released on Blu-ray on August 14th, 2012. The sequels will also be released that day, including Jaws 3D on the 3D Blu-ray media. It's a new year, so that means last year's numbers are officially on the books. To close out 2011, here's a look at what was hot and what was decidedly not for the year. Starting with the top 10 movies in 2011, it was a good year for genre fans. Number 10 last year was Captain America: The First Avenger with $176.6 million overall. Number 9 was Rise of the Planet of the Apes with $176.7 million. 4 came in at 8th with $181 million. Cars 2 was number 7 with $191.5 million. And Fast 5 hit the number 6 spot with $209.8 million. In number 5 was Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides with $241 million. The Hangover Part 2 was at number 4 with $254.5 million. Number 3 was The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1 with $275.4 million. Number 2 was Transformers Dark of the Moon with $352.4 million. And the number 1 film in 2011 was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 with $381 million total. On the limited side, the top 5 releases were number 5, Kevin Hart, Laugh at My Pain with $7.7 million. Number 4 was Win Win with $10.2 million. Number 3 was Jane Eyre with $11.2 million. Number 2 was The Tree of Life at $13.3 million. And the number 1 limited release last year was Born to be Wild in IMAX theaters with $14.8 million. Expanding out to the international front, number 10 was Rio with $484.6 million worldwide gross. Number 9 was Cars 2 at $559.9 million. Number 8 was The Smurfs at $562.5 million. In 7th place was The Hangover Part 2 with $581.5 million. And number 6 was Fast 5 at $626.1 million. The 5th highest grossing film last year worldwide was The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1 at $657.1 million. Number 4 was Kung Fu Panda 2 at $665.7 million. Number 3 was Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides at $1 billion. Number 2 was Transformers Dark of the Moon at $1.1 billion. And the number 1 film last year worldwide was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 at $1.3 billion. Now on the other end of the spectrum, we also have the bottom 5 for the year. I've limited this to the wide releases, to be fair, because limiteds pull a lot less money. The bottom 5 wide releases for 2011 start at number 5 with Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star at $2.5 million. The 4th worst film last year was The Mighty Max at $1.9 million. Number 3 was The Art of Getting By at $1.4 million. Number 2 was Dylan Dog, Dead of Night at $1.2 million. And decidedly, the worst film of 2011 based on box offices was Creature, pulling in a meager $508,000. Yes, you heard that right, $508,000 last year. Now my last top 10 list for the year is the top 10 pirated movies for 2011. In the number 10 spot is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 with 6 million illegal downloads. At number 9 is The King's Speech with 6.3 million illegal downloads. Number 8 was Rango at 6.5 million illegal downloads. Number 7 was 127 Hours at 6.9 million downloads. Number 6 was Sucker Punch at 7.2 million illegal downloads. Number 5 is I Am Number 4. That's 7.7 million downloads. Number 4 is Source Code at 7.9 million downloads. Number 3 was Thor at 8.3 million downloads. Number 2 was The Hangover Part 2 at 8.8 million downloads. And the most pirated movie from the year 2011 was Fast 5 with 9.3 million downloads. If you want to discuss anything you heard on this week's edition, please take a moment to get in touch. You can surf on over to chronicriff.com and leave a note in the forums. You can leave a voicemail at 888-866-9010, or you can write to John at chronicriff.com. You can follow us on Tumblr, tweet us on Twitter, check in the network on GetGlue, watch the classic episodes on Funny or Die, and leave us a review on iTunes. The Chronic Rift is now on Stitcher Radio, and you can also find the Weekly Podioplex and the Chronic Rift on Facebook and Google+. If you decide to pick up any of this week's new releases, why not do it through our Amazon store? You get the newest entertainment at Amazon's low prices and high-quality service, and each purchase you make through the store supports the Chronic Rift. Look for the link in our show notes. The Weekly Podioplex is a collaboration of Critic Criticality and Lucky Shot Productions and is produced by John S. Drew. This is Michael Falkner. Thanks for listening. I'll see you at the theater.